Good evening and welcome to the Tuesday, December 19th meeting of the Long Meadow School Committee. School committees and other public bodies may continue to hold remote meetings through March 31st, 2025, under legislation enacted on March 29th, 2023. The statute, Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, extends quorum reductions for remote meetings. All votes while there is remote participation must be made by roll call vote. This meeting is being recorded and aired live on LCTV. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll begin with correspondence. Jamie?
Yep. The following correspondence will be recorded. An email from Miss Kayla Werlin dated November 20th, 2023 regarding students who earn placements in the Massachusetts Music Educators Association District Chorus, not band, orchestra, or jazz ensemble. An email from Miss Kayla Werlin dated December 5th, 2023 regarding the Longmeadow High School Winter Concert on December 20th and the 60th anniversary of this special tradition within the concert. An email from Miss Susan Lauser dated December 4th, 2023 regarding student who earned placements in the Massachusetts Music Educators Association Junior District Ensemble.
All right, thank you. Moving on to approval of minutes, we have two recommended motions.
I move the school committee approve the minutes to the November 28th, 2023 school committee meeting as presented.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, we will move to a roll call vote. Zach?
Yes.
Jamie?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Michaela?
Yes.
And yes for me as well. Just a quick check. I just want to make sure we don't have any other members who are joining us virtually. Do we know Danny's phone isn't somebody on the committee, is it? Okay. I'm not hearing.
No, this is Dan's work, though.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Just double checking, thanks. All right, we have a second motion.
Yep, I move that the school committee approve the minutes to the December 4th, 2023 school committee meeting as presented.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you very much. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. Zach?
Yes.
Jamie?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Michaela?
Yes.
And yes for me as well. All right, we are moving into our public speak portion. If there are any members of the public online, we don't have any here in the room, but anybody online who'd like to speak, now is an excellent time to do so. All right, seeing no public speak moments, there we go. We will move on to school committee announcements and recognitions. Does any member of the community or any member of the committee have any announcements or recognitions to make? All right. Seeing none, we are moving up to administrative reports. Chair report. Okay, so we're in the holiday season. We've got a lot of different things going on around school, and so I'm going to shout out a few of them from the last week. First up, a shout out to Longmeadow High School freshman Matteo Baresi for his work as our Project 351 ambassador. He has been working with our 3 elementary schools to create a community food drive that gathered over 300 pounds of food for the Longmeadow Food Pantry. So way to go, Matteo, and everyone who participated. Thank you. Another shout out to the Glenbrook Builders Club, who collected 783 pounds of food during their recent food drive to support the Food Bank of Western Massachusetts. Very impressive work. Thank you very much. Another note of recognition to Shelley Warren and the Stand Club for their work collecting donations of personal care items and toiletries to send to my sister's house in Springfield. Excellent work as well. And a special thank you to all of our school groups who worked hard over the last several weeks to collect holiday gifts and toys and wrap those things for the YWCA, for the Gray House, and for a variety of other community organizations around the Pioneer Valley. And lastly, a big thank you to all of our staff and students and volunteers across the community who are making all of the many plays and concerts and other winter events possible during this very busy time of the year. You are generously gifting your time and your energy, and we appreciate that work to building community and joy in our schools. So thank you very much. All right. We move on to superintendent report.
Yeah, great summary of all the charitable drives and the spirit
So
weeks
many things.
and the concerts and
Love it.
so much happening in our schools, and appreciative to all the parents who have been kind enough to bring in donations and also put together some great luncheons and breakfasts for our staff. So that was always appreciated. So thank you so much.
Sure.
Few items in your superintendent's report that's in your packet. Had an opportunity this morning to attend a special briefing at the Jewish Community Center. It was focused on helping community leaders understand the experience of the Jewish community and what their current challenges are and how we can support them. Just also talked in general about the amount of sort of religious-based intolerance that exists sort of nationally and here in Long Meadow and Western Mass. So it was an informative opportunity for me today, and grateful that the JCC invited us to be represented. There's a couple of items relating to the FY25 budget that we can come back to later on in your agenda. A few updates from some of the district-level offices, technology. I think the committee understands that our principals recently have been more purposeful recently around asking families to talk to their children about being good stewards of the Chromebooks that we issue. We've had to replace a significant number since school started, and we're grateful to the parents that are able to have those conversations with their children. And kudos to the IT team for staying on top of those replacements as best they can. The committee heard last week from the IT study that we are progressing with the replacement of the head-end server here at Long Meadow High. The equipment has been ordered and has been delivered, rather, and we're expecting that to be deployed as soon as possible. And then also in your meeting packet, I believe we included a follow-up from IT Director Antonia Pagan with some thoughts on the IT study that the committee heard about at last week's joint meeting with the Select Board. So that's in your meeting packet. Director of Student and Family Support, Nilda Irizarry, led a group of 10 educators down to training down in New Haven on our new SEL approach, the Yale Ruler approach. And so the implementation team is excited to continue their work under Nilda's leadership. In the world of special education, Nicole Paris-Crowe has been orienting us to a new IEP form that the state is rolling out, and that will be in place in all school districts in September of '24. So that will be, we'll have to roll up our sleeves to make sure we understand those requirements and train staff properly on that. And then Dr. Beth Nelson, Director of Curriculum Instruction and Assessment, continues to lead the Elementary Literacy Review and Pilot Committee. They have narrowed the field to 3 potential pilot programs, and they're going to visit some area school districts to see those programs in action. And so we'll continue to keep the committee posted on the progress of that Literacy Review and Pilot Committee. So lots going on, and happy to answer any questions you might have on any of that.
Wonderful. Any questions related to anything on the report? All right, other administrator reports. Mr. Valens, anything from you tonight?
No, I'll save it for the finance subcommittee update.
Sounds good. All right, we're on to our student representative. Andrew?
Sounds good. So we I have just to start a few dates. So the sophomore semi date has been set for April 5th, and the midpoint of the quarter 2 was on Friday, December 8th. And the class of 2026 will also be having a hot table fundraiser on January the 10th. And then moving on from that, the class of 2025 recently sold candygrams for all LHS students to buy for your friends or yourselves. They contain a little candy cane and then a note on it. And those were handed out today to the students that bought them for their friends. And then on Thursday in the afternoon, students will be able to watch either the talent show in the auditorium, the student first teacher basketball game in the gymnasium, or we also have a craft space set up in Seminar A, which I think that would be really awesome. And then on Friday, December 8th and Sunday, December 10th, the LHS Drama Club had their performances of Percy Jackson. Yeah, a lot of awesome stuff going on.
Wonderful. Thank you. All right, other reports. LPVEC, Mary.
I don't have a report tonight. The next meeting is on January 17th.
All right, great. Energy and sustainability, Adam is not here. SEAL, Michaela.
Sorry. We had a meeting last Wednesday, and we had a really great presentation from the Department of Developmental Services about their services and the opportunities that are available for children with developmental and intellectual disabilities. So it was a really great presentation, and actually the director of special ed, Nicole Paris-Crow, was there, and she was talking about having the staff, a lot of staff members, receive the same presentation. It was really informative and great and helped a lot of parents out. The next meeting is on Wednesday, January 10th, and the topic is bullying, what parents need to know, and it's presented by the Federation of Children with Special Needs. So again, if you can't, there's always a Zoom link, check it out. It's always really informative and a great support for our families.
Wonderful, thank you. Appreciate that. And then middle school building committee update. Can I turn that to you? I was not able to make that meeting.
Very quickly, there was a meeting last week. We discussed the milestone schedule, a copy of which is in your meeting packet. It's sort of a more accessible version of the milestone schedule that maybe you've seen in the past, and this one comes from Colliers. By December 20th, we're expecting the designer submissions to be received, so that's actually tomorrow. And then from that point, the school building committee will get down to the business of reviewing those proposals and making our way to the MSBA in early January to engage in that designer selection process with the MSBA. So things are rolling, for
right.
sure.
All right, so moving on to subcommittee reports. Finance sub. Tom, Jamie?
Yes, good evening. Finance Subcommittee met this morning, and there are a couple items on tonight's agenda. So in the packet is the FY25 budget instructions and calendar. This was information that was passed out at the joint meeting earlier this month. And in regards to the calendar, we would be submitting our FY25 budget to the town manager before February vacation, usually by that Friday of February vacation. And looking at kind of going back from that date and trying to plan out a time to present it to school committee, to have our public hearing, which is required to have a hearing on it, and then final approval and adoption by the school committee. We would be proposing that for the January school committee meetings that we postpone or back up the second meeting in January instead of having it on the 23rd. We would request that maybe we post that for the 30th, and then we would need to add a special meeting on February 6th, which would be when we would have our public hearing on the FY25 budget with expectation and of adoption of the budget on the regular scheduled meeting on February 13th.
Okay.
So I know there's some juggling around of our dates there, but this would line up with the normal time in which we would present it, have our hearing and approval in time to submit to the town manager.
Okay. Any thoughts on that from anyone else on the committee? Does that timing work? All right, so to be clear, we are moving the meeting currently scheduled on the 23rd to the 30th. And then we are adding a meeting on February 6th, correct? Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah.
Also in your packet is a couple of documents related to the FY24 budget. You may recall last month in early November, we reviewed a year-to-date budget report for this current year's budget. And at the time, we were projecting a slight deficit as of June 30th, 2024. And I also indicated that we would continue to monitor it on a more closely basis, probably on a monthly basis. So today, Finance Subcommittee received an updated report. I would say that things are still tracking where we were a month ago. No major surprises one way or the other. So we talked a little bit about at Finance Sub, when might we need to start making adjustments, and I think we landed on sometime in late winter, early spring, to give it a few more months of additional utility expenses, some vacancies to see if we're able to fill them, and also looking at, just our cost centers in general. It'll give us a better sense of how close we are in terms of using up all of the discretionary funds that are allocated, and help determine if we need to take any steps in order to make sure we don't finish the year with a deficit. So it's in your packet. I'm happy to answer any questions anybody might have now or in the future in regards to the report. We'll probably see an updated report sometime at the end of January as we're getting ready to discuss the FY25 budget.
Any questions or comments related to that?
No, the only other
Anything, Ed?
the good news behind this is it's kind of stable. It didn't go in the opposite direction. That would have been cause for alarm. I mean, the fact that it's kind of stable makes it a little bit more as things go by, and maybe we're going to have some things break in our direction. It's a matter of time, whether it's weather, or like what Tom said. So the good thing is it's kind of right where, what is it, off a few $1,000s from where we're
About 10 more.
over a month. The fact that it's kind of stable, that's a good thing. So now it's just let's hope some things look a little better each month coming forward here. So, but we're still definitely have some work to do. So.
Okay.
The second item in your packet is a request for budget transfers to the general fund for FY24. This would be the first transfer for FY24 for the general fund that would be being processed. Usually happens about this time of the year where we transfer funds to address line item shortfalls, specifically around salary. So changes that were made from when the budget was adopted last winter to now in terms of salary lines, positions with people moving, whether it be new staff, shifting in the priorities in terms of positions that are currently in place to support the needs of the students. So this would lay the foundation for FY25's budget based on these transfers kind of being where we would be looking at for funding for FY25. So it would be, Finance Subcommittee did recommend school committee approve the transfers as presented.
All right, questions related to budget transfer 1. Everyone can see that? All right, if no discussion, we have a possible motion.
Yep, I move on the recommendation of the Finance Subcommittee that the school committee approve the budget transfer as indicated on the document titled FY24 General Fund Budget Transfer Number 1 dated December 19th, 2023.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to a roll call vote. Zach?
Yes.
Jamie?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Michaela?
Yeah, yes.
And yes for me as well. All right.
And the last item is a request to a consent agenda for 2 building use requests. The first is from the Park and Recs Department for use of the high school swimming pool during February vacation to offer a lifeguarding course. So that would be on Tuesday, February 20th through Friday, February 23rd. various times, but basically between 7 and 5 each of those days. The second request is for use of the Glenbrook cafeteria submitted by the Glenbrook PAC for on April 28th from 7 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. for the annual Bulldog Dash.
All right. So as a reminder, there is no discussion on consent agendas. So if someone would like to discuss one of these items, then we would remove it by vote of the committee from the consent agenda. So now would be the time to note if you would like to remove one of these items from the consent agenda. All right, seeing no request for that, we do have a recommended motion.
I move on the recommendation of the Finance Subcommittee that the school committee approve the consent agenda as presented for December 19th, 2023.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. A roll call vote. Zach?
Yes.
Jamie?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Michaela?
Yes.
And yes for me as well. All right, excellent, thank you. Anything
you.
further from Finance Sub?
That is it, thank you.
All right, we're headed into Policy Sub. Julie, who's chair of Policy Sub again? Is it Julie?
I believe it's
Me.
Michaela.
Oh, it's Michaela.
Sorry about that.
All right, Michaela, Policy Sub. Here, off
All
and running.
right,
I'm
so
happy.
we met on Monday, December 11th, last week, and the first thing we did was discuss policy ECB, which is the cybersecurity policy. And so we're bringing it forward for our first reading, and Dr. O'Shea will explain why this is coming.
Sure. Thank you. And IT Director Antonio Pagan is on the call. If we have any questions for him, thank you, Antonio, for joining us. So you have a cybersecurity policy that Antonio and I drafted. I'll say that Antonio, give credit where credit's due, Antonio provided the clear framework for this. It's really serves two purposes. I think it's a follow-up to the IT study that was reviewed by the committee and the select board a couple of weeks ago. It also is necessary to have in place to really strengthen the fiscal position of the town. Having a cybersecurity policy is seen as advantageous to the town as it pursues various fiscal arrangements, borrowing, et cetera. And so you'll see policy ECB. At the time that we developed this policy, the Mass Association of School Committees had no model policy. And wouldn't you know, 2 days, I think it was, after our policy sub, they released their version of the cybersecurity policy, EHAA. I think they achieved the same purpose. I think modestly would say our cybersecurity policy is stronger, as it's sort of built around that framework of awareness, preparedness, and response. But I wanted to include the MASC policy for your review as well. Our recommendation would be to put out to first reading the policy that was presented to policy sub. So that's the cybersecurity policy, ECB.
All right, any discussion related to policy ECB or the MASC version and/or commentary? This does not need a vote on us now. It'll go for public comment and come back to us later, but if there's any feedback, now would be a good time. All right, moving forward then, that will head to the district's website for 30 days and then return to us
Yep.
by consideration of the committee then.
All right. Thank you. Michaela, would you like me to take the next item, or would you like to introduce it?
Yeah, so the next one we've discussed a few times, twice, in two different meetings. and reviewed it and gave our feedback. It's about the Chromebook protection plan. And we had a lot of really great discussions, and there was some good improvements, and I think we just wanted to bring it forward to the full committee just to review it and get some feedback.
Thank you, yeah, and I'd say what the document that's in your packet, it's less of a policy and more of a plan that we would build a policy off of if it were reviewed favorably by the committee. If the committee wanted us to make adjustments, we could take it back and do so. Or if the committee felt like it just didn't fit our needs as a community, then that's okay too. But some of the features of this plan are included on the document in your packet. For folks at home, we're in a place where Chromebooks have become integral to our instructional practice here in Long Meadow, and that's true elsewhere, obviously. And we have seen, these are devices that are important, they get a lot of use, but we're seeing, frankly, a lot of damage, either in some cases, limited cases, intentional, more often accidental, and sometimes there's just simple failure. We feel like it would be helpful to families, rather than us having to sort of go through that process of determining whether it was intentional or accidental, and trying to have that conversation with the family about whether or not payment would be required. The Chromebook protection plan would offer families the opportunity to be covered for accidental drops, accidental spills on a Chromebook, accidentally cracking the screen or accidentally damaging the keyboard, or if there were, let's say, a power surge that caused failure. So in those cases, or in cases of just general failure of the device, the Chromebook protection plan would cover families and give us a source of revenue to make sure that we have a supply of Chromebooks on hand for students who need their device to be replaced. And of course, in all cases, ordinary device failure would be covered whether or not a family chooses to access the protection plan. So, but if a family chose not to access the protection plan, they would be responsible to pay for repair or replacement in all cases, whether it's intentional or accidental. So we think this is a way to sort of protect the investment that the committee has made in Chromebooks. We think it's a way to give families some peace of mind in the event that their child accidentally breaks the district hardware. Our thought is that, a lot of this has been refined based on feedback that we got from the policy sub, and Michaela's right, we had a great discussion on a couple of occasions, so this is sort of a third iteration of the plan. Our thought would be that below third grade, or excuse me, below fourth grade, when students are more likely to keep the device at school, the district would incur the costs of accidental damage. We frankly don't see a lot of damage in the early elementary grades. It's when students hit fourth, fifth grade. The middle school happens to be probably where we're seeing the most challenges. And there's a few other features there for your review. Our thought is that families with more than 2 children would receive a discount on the third plan, and then the fourth plan and above, those would be free. So for your consideration, I know this is a complex issue, and it might require some additional discussion by the committee, but we wanted to bring it to you for your feedback and questions, and Antonio is here to join the conversation if it would be helpful. So,
All right.
all right.
Can I ask just a little bit of data first? Mr. Pagan, can you let us know roughly what is the number of Chromebooks that we have in use throughout the school district? Approximately.
In total, we have, good night, everyone. In total, we have close to 3,000
Close to
that are
3,000.
actively in use.
Okay. And so far this year, we've replaced, I think I heard 200 or something.
Yeah, the number we have since the school year started is around 400.
Around 400.
Is it
Needing
going-
replacement or needing repair or replacement?
Both.
Both.
Okay.
So repair and replacement have been around 400 since the school year began in September. Do you happen to know, out of curiosity, what percentage or approximately what percentage, it doesn't have to be exact, just a ballpark of what percentage of those were needing replacement or repair due to sort of just aging out, not connecting to the internet anymore, functionality issues that don't necessarily have to do with
Yeah, that's
damage?
a good question. Based on the information I have access to right now, and as you know, I've been here for a few months.
Yeah.
It's about 75% that is, normal wear and tear, and about 25 that is either they drop or they got water spill over the keyboard, things like that. Most of them are screen damage,
Okay. So,
the 25%.
okay, perfect. Thank you. I just wanted to know what we're kind of looking at numbers-wise. All right, other discussions, questions, comments, thoughts? I know that the policy sub is looking for some feedback here to consider moving forward with developing a possible policy. Julie?
Well, I want to make sure that people who aren't on policy sub have an opportunity to ask questions, but I wanted to ask Marty, can you just clarify a little bit for us? Because I think like what is in our packet, it's not only the protection plan that's different, there will be a change in policy, but it's also the approach to like baseline. You don't have a protection plan. If you're not opting into the protection plan, that baseline is changing from what it is now. Like an email went out to parents, I think just last week, right? That described the way that we're treating replacements right now, and what's described in the packet is different. So I think it's
Yeah.
2 policy changes. Is that right?
Let's see if Tom can help me out with this on the if you're able to pull up that letter that went out. The letter that went out was a letter to sort of encourage care and protection, but also advise families that on their second device, Tom, that we would require payment for the device. And Antonio, you can help me out as well.
Yeah, I get, the conversation we have with administrators is that currently we don't have a policy for protection, but there is a practice. That's what basically was clarifying on that letter. What is the
Okay.
practice, how we've been dealing with that. But it's not a policy as per.
Okay, but I just want to make sure we're all clear. Like we'd be changing the practice, and maybe we'd be codifying it in a policy. But the current practice, I think, unless I'm misunderstanding the email, was we're charging people on the second replacement, and then we're charging them. I believe the email, I can't pull it up here, but I think the email says that we're charging for the damage, not the full cost of replacement. And what's in our packet is you'd be charged on the first time, and you'd be charged the full cost of replacement. I just want to make sure we're like have the baseline right of what we're talking about.
I think you
Is
said
that right?
I think you said it correctly, Julie. The only qualifier I might add would be that even on the first instance right now, if we know there to be sort of very intentional damage, it's clear and obvious that it was intentional, then we would seek replacement on the first instance.
Okay, I don't think that was in the email, but that makes sense.
It may not have been. I think we sort of felt like maybe that just went unspoken, that if, in the same way that, if there's vandalism to school property, we would always seek restitution or try to recover the damages.
see.
Yeah. But yeah, no, that was not explicitly noted in the letter that went home.
Julie, does that answer your question, or did you have a
Yeah.
follow-up?
It does.
Okay. Any other thoughts, follow-up questions, and/or feedback to provide? Yes, Jamie?
Yeah, can you just walk through the history of Chromebooks? 'Cause I'm trying to remember exactly what we did when, when did this started during the pandemic, right? But during a lot of these years, we did a lot of different maneuvering to keep our Chromebooks in good shape, right? We were buying Chromebooks when we didn't need them.
Yeah, and I would say prior to the pandemic, we had a replacement cycle in place for devices. Most of the in-school use were off of carts, so there were portable carts that were moved around
Yeah.
from classroom to classroom, and to assist when they were needed, teachers would sign them out or schedule for use. And so we didn't have the volume of devices we do now.
Yeah.
Students weren't taking those home unless I believe they could sign them out and take them out to do projects and work associated to school-related assignments. But when the pandemic hit, yes, we quickly had to pivot and go out and purchase a significant amount of devices in order to implement a one-to-one. So to ensure that students had access to the virtual learning environment, to be able to access the remote set structure we had starting in the 2021 school year.
Yep.
We've had a significant investment in the number of the Chromebooks that we now own. We still have a replacement cycle in place, but some of that's being addressed as they're needing to be replaced during the school year instead of waiting till the end of the
Yeah.
individual school year to make those purchases.
Got it. So essentially, if you kind of look at this in the grand scheme of things, if we're replacing 800 a year, so if we're already at 400, we're going to end at 800 this year. 150 of them are going to be, 150,000 of those. So 600 of those are going to be have nothing to do with how the children are taking care of these, based on just I know it's rough statistics, but has nothing to do with that. We're going to replace them. We have 150 grand that was never in our budget. It wasn't, and it hasn't been, and now, so any policy isn't going to fix it. We're only going to fix 200 grand of that.
I think what we're seeing is an acceleration on replacement that are ahead of when they would normally need to be replaced.
But we're not going to solve, I'm just trying to make sure, because I was kind of confused on that. Those numbers are different than what I was thinking. So if you have 600, you're replacing just normal every day. I mean, if we've replaced 400, 75% have nothing to do with children use. You're replacing 600 a year, 150 grand a year. We're not going to recoup a dollar of that because we're not going to charge anyone for it because no one did anything. They just stopped working. You know, you're really only, you're not really recouping any of this money with any of these policies, right? Am I really understanding it? Because I was different in the earlier when we talked about it. I was thinking we were actually going to recoup some of this. We just have a big budget hole that we have to replace these things that were never in our budget at a rate that is unsustainable.
Correct.
Okay. That's what I'm just trying to like connect. I was thinking very differently about some of these where we were actually going to offset all 800 computers by some fee that's coming in. We really not solving much even if we collect a fee, right? We're solving 200
So the fee
grand.
would be ballpark, I'll just using fees that we've seen kind of in other area districts,
Well, no,
say
you just-
somewhere in the neighborhood of 30-ish.
Yeah.
Multiplied by, you said we have about 3,000 laptops, but we wouldn't be asking our youngest students to pay that. So we'd be looking at 2,000 and change of those, right?
That would be eligible for the.
Yeah, I'm just trying to do the quick
But
math
it's
here.
not.
That's still,
We're-
oh, no, it's not. I mean, $30 per laptop is never gonna be enough to cover a 250 one.
But we need to come up with 600 laptops out of our budget. Like, that's $150,000 at today's
Tony,
rate.
could
That might be a slightly different,
I clarify?
but
You
yes.
said that most of the laptops that are coming in are due to ordinary failure versus the damage?
Yes, and there is a caveat, I think, that we are not taking in consideration. So, and I'm going to complicate this because that's part of my job. In the past, we have not returned the Chromebooks to the building during the summertime, which means to me, because my previous experience was different, means to me that we miss reviewing and knowing the state of some of those Chromebooks. So this year, because of the convergence of different conditions, we have found a lot of devices that maybe were having some issues, but the student worked around it because they were still kind of usable. But at the beginning of the school year, we actually, on the first few weeks, we received 200 of them. And that is not normal. That is not normal. I don't think it's not normal in any district. So we receive a lot of devices. So these numbers that I'm sharing with you as a raw statistics is not representation that is going to be happening the whole year or the next few years. It's really the result of basically I would say a lack of management of the fleet. So we were not managing in a way that we would know what the state was. So we are presented with this many. I don't think that many districts expect to have 600 of those Chromebooks just replaced because of malfunction. They will be replaced anyways because of the age, and that is going to happen. That's a different product. And we have talked about that a little bit for the future. Because they were purchased all at once or most of them at once, we will need to replace them on a very small amount of time, which is a completely different topic to talk about. I don't want to mud the waters with that. But we have to be careful with coming to a conclusion based on the numbers that we have today, because if we were looking at the Chromebooks every year and taking out of the inventory the ones that were failing, we would not have those numbers today, but that was not happening. So it's a little difficult to come to a conclusion with that. I think that one thing is managing the whole inventory and doing a recycle or replacement cycle on a very business way to do it, so that it's not all at once. Another one is we have, for me, 25% is high for damage. I would expect that 10% of the return ones are damaged. 25 is a little high. And in general, we are receiving too many Chromebooks with defects that look like it could be accidental, it could be intentional. We are not, we are some obvious cases that I would say, yes, this was intentional. But, if the Chromebooks are not treated well, they are very strong. Actually, you can see them if you take them into your hands. They are strong, but there are situations when they constantly drop, and we have documented where students have mentioned that the unit has dropped several times. So it comes the time that they will be failing and they will be damaged. And most of the damages that we have received, or the damaged units that we have received this year, are because of screens, which means to me that it's definitely something that is being mostly accidental, but it's also being because there is no a good care of them.
Can I ask as a follow-up, I realize you've been here for a few months, but are you working together to develop a plan for sort of managing that look? Like, are you intending to potentially, take Chromebooks back at certain points in the year, or work through different grades at different levels, or take them all and reassess over the summer? Or what are there plans in development to ensure that moving forward each year we're not sort of met with a big burst at the beginning of the school year?
Yes, so we are talking with that. I have met with Tom many times, trying to figure out the situation. We've been talking with the high school to see if we can get some student interns for the summer. So we are looking at different options, and definitely there has to be a way that we look, maybe not to 100% of the inventory during the summer, but a good portion of them. And we have good management of the inventory in the sense that we know where every computer is and who has it. We know how long it's been working, when it needs to be retired. All that information is in the inventory, but we haven't made a plan. I cannot say that we have a plan already, but we are working on it, and we have basic conversations with several people within the team and outside of the team, trying to find a solution before the spring. So we will announce something before the spring where we, as you know, a matter of fact, I promise that I will have a report by within 6 months to discuss, you know, the different programs that we are going to be putting in place to take, you know, some things in consideration. And one of them is definitely the inventory of Chromebooks and other devices. It's not only Chromebooks. We also have iPads and MacBook Pros for the teachers. That is, you know, all the inventory needs to be managed one way or the other.
Thank you. I mean, we are definitely, I realize that we've been sort of relying on our acceptable use for school property kind of policies up to this point, and that may be somewhat outdated and in need of a fresh look. I definitely think maybe as we move forward, hearing some more information on what the plans are for management of the fleet, maybe hearing some clearer, more specific numbers about what percentage of computers we're seeing with issues related to damage and loss, and which percentage are just in need of replacement because of wear and tear and aging out, et cetera, would maybe be useful before we dive deeply into that idea of a policy. Jamie?
Yeah, can I just ask, because I think Antonio will know the answer to what is the useful life of a Chromebook? I know if we all bought iPhones in the beginning of the pandemic, most of our iPhones would be dead now, and we'd be moving on. Is that similar for Chromebooks? Is it 3-4 years?
It is. We can assume 5 years. There's a couple of caveats. For example, Google, by practice or by policy, they allow every unit to be upgraded on the software up to a certain amount of times. Normally it's between 5 and 6 years. It depends on when you bought the unit, because every manufacturer has, you know, the same model, different generations. And based on that information, Google assigns a basically out of support a date. So that might change how long is usable, even though the hardware is working, the software cannot be used anymore because it's not secure, because you cannot update it. So we might have those situations sometimes, like we might need to retire, use our Chromebooks because they cannot be upgraded anymore. But I you know, taking into consideration all situations, you can, in average, is 5 years.
Okay.
All right,
So
thank
it's,
you.
I'm kind of in agreement with you, because I don't think we know enough, because in reality, you're replacing 600 computers every year then, like the dudes divide 5 into 3,000. So you're even if we did this perfect, where we bought 600 5 years in a row, where it's coming off and on and off and on, we know that's not the case, right? We
Yeah.
know we threw all these in here. We're going to have a until we understand kind of where they all are, we could have a very big cost for the next 2-3 years. We want to make sure we understand it's
By
coming
then,
our
we'll
way.
just continue on.
That
Yeah.
we're not going to get out of anytime
no.
soon. It's going to be a big, we're going to have this
An ongoing
peak
cycle.
and then valley, and then it's going to be 600 a year, 600 a year, 600 a year if it's perfect. And it's probably not going to be perfect. Some years you're going to be at 400, some you're going to be at 7. But you're going to be in that range
Yeah.
of what's dying off on you. Because some will last a little longer, some will be a little bit less. But yeah, I'd really want to know what that all looks like before we kind of go this route yet.
I want to touch base with Mary too and see if she has a follow-up question, and then Dr. O'Shea. Mary, go ahead.
Thank you. So as Michaela said, we really talked about this in policy sub quite a bit. And thank you, Antonio, for even those rough numbers, because when we were talking about numbers in the policy sub, I didn't realize that so many of the laptops that we've serviced this year or replaced this year were from expected wear and tear. When I think about that in the context, again, I know these numbers are rough, that means that 3% of the Chromebooks, right, 100 out of 3,000, were either intentionally or accidentally damaged. I feel like that's a little bit of a separate conversation than the policy, so tonight I had wanted to share with the committee, I think that there are two issues really at the heart of this matter, and the first is that students need access to Chromebooks. We were hearing from Marty in the subcommittee meeting that it's very frustrating for students and for educators when students are in the classroom and they don't have working technology. A lot of the curriculum is technology